Meeting come to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Village Board meeting of February 26, 2024. Roll call, please. Possession.
Here.
Kraus. Gardner.
Here.
Stacy.
Here.
Terry.
Here.
Giannotti.
Here.
In your packet, you have minutes for the last meeting. Does anyone have any changes or additions? If not, can we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call. Who made the motion? One of the Joes. Possession.
Abstain.
Kraus. Gardner.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Giannotti.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone in the audience wish to address the board?
Hi. Good afternoon, Madam President, Trustee Board. My name is Gloria White. I am a resident of Calumet City. I am currently running for State Rep of the 29th District, which is our district, my Beecher family. Currently, I am trustee of the school, which I'm overlooking a $125 million budget, free because it's not paid, and I'm out visiting residents, and just wanted to visit, for you to see my face, you'll know who I am, and hopefully I can count on your support. Thank you. Yes,
Thank you for coming in. Does anyone else in the audience wish to address the board? Okay, let's go on to my report. We have someone new who is interested in joining Beecher Youth Commission. That is Jill Merchek. Can we have a motion to approve the appointment of Jill?
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call. Giannotti.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Possession.
Yes.
Okay, Finance and Administration Committee, Trustee Session.
Thank you very much. All right, first up, we'll consider a motion approving the list of bills and payroll. So you have your packet of the bills. No changes since the bills were sent out. So I would make a motion to approve the bills and payrolls totaling $54,884.67.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call. Possession.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Giannotti.
Yes.
Thank you. Fuel pricing for 2024 has been established by the Intergovernmental Fuel Committee. Two bids were received for fuel, and the lowest bid was from Heritage FS. Prices for the coming year will be $3.43 for unleaded, which is currently $3.12, and $3.73 for diesel, currently $3.71. Any updates on that one, Carrie? Is that good? Okay. Consider a motion authorizing the village attorney to draft an ordinance amending section 3210 of the village code to equalize the fee for contractor licenses. So Charity, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this one. Currently, general contractors have, I think, a fee of $150. And if it's a subcontractor getting a permit, it's $100. And so we're just gonna even that out to $150 across the board, which would generate, I think, roughly $11,000 in revenue. So, yeah, just kind of.
And from what I understand, a lot of times, sometimes the subcontractors are still general contractors on another job, so they overlap a little, and it's kind of hard to tell who's a subcontractor and who's a general contractor sometimes, so.
All right, so I'll make that motion.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call. Giannotti.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Possession.
Yes. All right, that concludes my report.
Okay, Public Buildings and Properties, Parks and Recreation Committee, Trustee Giannotti.
Thank you. Review and discussion of the police facility bids. All three of the members of JMA are here to make a presentation, so I will turn the floor over to Jim, who has provided us with a packet for tonight.
Good evening, board. You should have a letter, as trustee mentioned. So in this packet, where I would like to start, obviously And we've been spending the time from then until now analyzing the bids and determining if there are any additional cost-saving measures that we could take advantage of in the project. So the first thing that I would draw to your attention is labeled Exhibit A. That might look familiar. That was a budget target sheet that was distributed back last year when we had elected to undergo a process to reduce the square footage of the building and make some site changes in the effort to reduce the overall budget of the project. We had targets for the base building bid and base site bid. You can see those there, and you can see the results. Now, those targets roughly were about 10% over the target still with the bids that were received in January. And then below that, you'll see the list of alternate bids that was also established back last year when we met about breaking out provisions of the project so that you can consider those as individual items to either accept or not accept for the project. Although overall, from the first bid of the project to the second bid attempt, we did reduce the overall project scope. If you took everything into account, including the alternates, we reduced roughly $670,000 from the first go-around. Now, because there's still obviously the desire to get closer to that target, we went through a process of meeting with individual trade contractors, one to establish who we felt the lowest qualified bid was, and that in each of the instances was the lowest bid received in each category. And then we asked them to work with us to identify additional items that we would bring back to the village to consider for cost reduction. And that is Exhibit B. And I don't want to necessarily go through each item. It is broken down if you have questions on those. But roughly, this package of scope and cost reduction gets us another 6.2% reduction. Still not exactly at the target, about 3.8% over the target figure. It puts the total of the base building and site at $4.246 million as we stand right now. There's still a couple of items that we're still vetting out to determine whether we can recommend them to you. But ultimately, if we're getting close to actual range for you, we would assemble a final package of these scope reduction elements and their costs, along with sort of a final package for the board to consider approval.
So I have a question. So are there certain things in here that really came up higher than you had expected? I mean, I know we've been battling this since the first go-around of bids was way above. Are there some areas that were really unexpectedly high that?
So, and I could summarize that for you. We very quickly arrived at excavation, or sort of the earthwork package, masonry, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical as being elements that we felt were still beyond where we would have targeted them. In some of the instances, we found out that the original bid that we were using as the benchmark, so to speak, in the reduction, that individual at that time, although it was not disclosed to us when we did the first review, indicated on the second go-around that there was some erroneous bid result there. Now, he would have accepted it, but this rebid gave him a chance to reevaluate his position on it, so we lost that ground. So in that particular instance, our target would have been unrealistic, so to speak. So again, there's still a little bit more work to do to extract some savings, which we're very quickly honing in on. I feel that we can bring this back to you at your next meeting for a potential vote.
And Jim, a lot of the stuff that you guys have identified here, I know from our conversation earlier, is stuff that's not really visible changes.
Correct.
It's more of behind the scenes kind of stuff, so it's not like we're changing cosmetically the building or anything like that. We're just looking for certain areas that can be reduced that aren't really gonna affect the overall project.
Correct, and the vast majority falls into that category. It could be a product substitution that a contractor recommended that we vetted against what we had specified with our engineer, and they found those products to be acceptable, and if we could get a better deal on it, then why not? So those are some suggestions that came up. The only really visible change, and I'm glad you brought that up, would be Exhibit C, because there are some ideas for masonry cost reduction, and that was one of the categories we were looking to reduce the cost. You'll see two exhibits labeled C. The very first one showed our proposed design, and what you'll pick up on the first design is on say the corners, there's some piers that had some smooth stone elements to them, and then underneath the windows we had a cultured stone on the veneer. And then if you flip the page, you'll see that those now we're recommending, we're just doing those with different face brick colors as opposed to those stone elements, and that allows us to save some dollars. We still think it's a very attractive building, but it is an aesthetic change from what the original proposal was.
Jim, on Friday, we had a meeting, you're at $4,295,930 without the add-on. Are you lower than that now?
Correct.
Now, how did we get lower from Friday?
We identified, well, there were some additional items that were brought by the committee or the group at the time, and we did spend the time over the weekend to flush those out and get those dollars
And
assigned.
what figure are we at right now?
4246.
4,6,570.
So this was the original, is the first one?
So I was looking at the exhibit A stuff first.
Oh, what are you looking for
I
now?
was just looking at
Oh,
it. So that price that you just said, Jim, the four,
4246570.
so is that, so I guess I'm looking at exhibit A, so as far as, is the generator package included on that exhibit?
That's an optional add.
So that's an option, and so then exactly what does the camera system include as an optional add? Is that the entire, CCT system?
Yes.
I think that's an optional, some of these things that I think that may be classified as optional, I just don't think that's an option. I mean, from a public safety building standpoint, I think it's, the generator package is a must. You know, I mean, I guess I could see the card system being a convenience, but the camera system, I think, is a must. You know, there's some of the things that, I'm just gonna, without trying to get too emotional and let my frustration get the best of me, I will say that during this process, I've been extremely disappointed through the whole thing, especially with, you know, GMA, okay? Because we hired you guys to come in, to consult with us, to give us a number that we can give to the public. Which you did, which we did, we went, we busted our butts to get a vote, we got the vote, and it was over $2 million. Now I understand that there is inflation, but to hire you guys and have to come back, I mean, you guys are the only company that we've been making payouts to for this. And it's well over $100,000. And I understand that you're doing your work, I'm not saying that you're not doing your work for the money, but I am very frustrated because we have to keep going back and forth, making cuts, what we can have, what we can't have. And I'm exhausted.
Well, I appreciate your comment. I would say that in the process of working with the village, we did put forth a budget which was in excess of $5 million for the project. And that was provided before we went to the original bid, and we were told to proceed.
I just don't see how some of these things can be optional.
Well, I think at this point, we have to, you know, you have to go back and come up with what your final numbers are. I guys need any more meetings over this, or have we cut just about everything we can cut?
I think between the chief and the lieutenant and the committee and everything, I think we've found and identified everything that can be. I mean, yeah, some of the stuff is, you know, would we like to see it? Absolutely, but we gotta work with what we have. So, I mean, we also started off with, when we started this process at a building that was 9,800 square feet that blew up to 12,000 square feet. And, you know, our bid numbers to start were much different than what we ended up looking at, and then, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, we promised it.
Yeah, and you know, for even for the public that's listening, when we first started, just so this doesn't look too crazy, when we first started talking about this, it was prior to when I was elected mayor. It was at the budget before the election. So that was when we first really started to even mention the police building. So that's how long this has been. So then by the time you start doing the planning, and it took us a year and a half or however long, 2 years to get to where we put the vote up for the referendum, and all this time, numbers change. So yeah, I'm frustrated as well. I do see to a degree where times have changed and prices keep going up, and we're kind of caught in this catch-22 where, you know, we're way over where we need to be. So you were planning to come back at the next meeting, and
Yeah, again, if there's other comments or other suggestions, we would gladly take those into account. The comment about, for instance, cameras, right? If that figure is still too great to achieve, we would pursue some recalibration of that with the chief and his team to come up with something that would work for what he needs in the facility. Again, when we met last year, we decided that those elements would be pulled out and broken out so it could be a la carte sort of selection of what would be included. And we've been driving to get the base project cost close to that 4.1 million roughly that was established back last year once we saw the results of the first bid, and we went through the process of making the reductions. From our vantage point, I understand the frustration. Believe me, we'd like to get the project started and get moving, and we've been working very hard with the contractors to try to get these numbers dialed in to something that is actionable for you. But this was the plan that was discussed last year, and we're trying to enact that as quickly as we can for you to consider.
so I think we need to probably go back to trying to get this as low as we possibly can, and then, this doesn't include furniture or anything either, furnishings. And then I think we need to go to committee probably sooner rather than later, even before final numbers come in, and just actually joint committee, buildings and property, finance, kind of put our heads together as to, you know, how we think we're gonna be able to do this.
yeah.
So,
If you'd like me to come back to a committee meeting, that's fine as well.
okay, all righty. Does anybody have any more questions or comments for Jim?
Sure.
All right,
Thank you.
Conclude my report.
all righty. Planning, building, and zoning, trustee Gardner.
Thank you. The zoning ordinance steering committee will meet one more time to review the full draft of the zoning ordinance before it will be presented to the planning and zoning committee at their meeting next month. Concludes my report.
Okay. Public safety committee, trustee Thierry.
Mayor, at the time I didn't have anything to report, but I do want to say that the police department was awarded a grant, and we received some funding for an equipment. It was with the United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, to where we got some fancy camera. It detects like infrared and thermal imaging and stuff. So, Chief, do you want to elaborate anything on that?
It was a little different than we thought when we applied for a grant, but it's like this big. And you put up to your eye, you can see, like if we have a missing senior citizen, it'll detect heat in a cornfield, that kind of stuff. It also has night vision too, so it's very valuable for the night shift. So, but most of all, it's free.
We like free.
And that's all I have.
All righty. Public Works Committee, trustee Stacy.
No report tonight, Mayor.
All righty. Economic Development, Community Relations Committee, trustee Usesh.
All right,
Thank you.
Alright, so kind of a serious update. Booking is mostly complete. We just have a couple of contracts to finalize and then we'll have all the bands booked, at which point we can actually talk about which bands they are. But that being said, I don't think we've released the dates. So right now we're looking at June 8th for the first concert, July 6th for the second, part of the 4th of July festival. The third will be August 10th, and then our final concert to close out the series will be September 7th. And that concludes my report.
All right. Any old business to come before the board? Okay, can we have a motion, we're still gonna, go ahead. Can we have a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees?
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Possession,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Giannotti.
Yes.
We'll recess for